In today's episode of Locked On Pistons podcast, we are doing our playoff review of Malik Beasley's performance and whether his performance should give the Detroit Pistons hesitancy when it comes to re-signing him in the offseason. We'll talk about all of it. Today's episode, Locked On Pistons podcast. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Kuka Hill. I've been covering the Detroit Pistons for 4 years now with the Locked On Pistons podcast. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDINNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Today's episode, we're going to do things a little differently. I know we've been dedicating full episodes to playoff player reviews, but I've decided that we're only going to do that for the most important players. So we did it with Cade, Asar, and JD. Isaiah Stewart would have gotten his full episode, but obviously Stu went down with an injury. He only ended up playing one game, so he won't get a full episode either. Everyone else we're only going to give segments to, so that's what we're going to do. And today, we'll talk about Malik Beasley and whether his performance should give the Pistons hesitancy when it comes to re-signing him. We'll talk about how Dennis Schroder showed up and balled out for the Pistons in the playoffs, and also what to make of THA's performance in the playoffs and moving forward with him. But let's go ahead and get into it. Also, you guys know the description down below. Head to the SUBSTACK. Subscribe over there. You guys will get written and film breakdowns throughout the offseason. We got it coming to you guys all the time. Also, the playback room if you want to join us and have some fun offseason content and watch some of the playoff games together as well. But let's go ahead and get into it. Malik Beasley is an expiring free agent or expiring contract this offseason. He's going to be a free agent. Pistons obviously got him for probably the best value contract in the entire NBA this past season, and he was absolutely exceptional all season long. He was probably, we've talked about this a ton on the podcast, he was probably one of the absolute main reasons why the Pistons half-court offense wasn't flatly a bottom five half-court offense, why it wasn't one of the worst offenses in the league, because his shot making during the regular season was historic. He hit 300 plus threes. He's one of only 5 players to hit the amount of threes that he did, Steph Curry, or amount of 5 times that have done it. I believe it's only Steph, Anthony Edwards, who just did it, Clay, and Malik Beasley. So had a historic season off the bench, was fantastic. I think he should have won Sixth Man of the Year. But then the playoffs rolled around. And in these playoffs, Malik Beasley, he did average 14 points a game, which was third on the team. But he was largely inefficient in the playoffs. And I know in past episodes we did positives and negatives to each person's playoff performance. But I think it's hard to find a positive with how Malik Beasley played in these playoffs. He did, like I said, he did average 14 points, but he shot 37% from the field, 33, basically 34% from deep. A lot of that came in the very end of the series. He heated up just a little bit at the very end of the series, but for the majority of the series, he was extremely cold, very inconsistent from beyond the arc, and it's one of the main reasons why the Detroit Pistons just couldn't get things going offensively. I know this was a defensive series, and we've seen the Knicks in a series against Boston look a lot better defensively than they had shown throughout the year. But even with that, I think Malik Beasley's performance was one of the main reasons why you saw scores of like 194, a 93-94 game, a 113-106 game, instead of like seeing some higher scored games, because Malik Beasley just was not playing very well. He hit 6 of 12 threes in the first game, which was great. Then he went 1 of 8, 2 of 10, 3 of 9, 2 of 7. And then in the final game, he went 6 of 13. So in the first and last game, he shot really well. Everything in between was horrible. He was not very good in between this series. And it was a large part why the Pistons weren't able to pull out this series and win. They needed Malik Beasley to play a lot better, especially with how he played throughout the season and how heavily reliant they were for his shot making, especially within their half-court offense. And obviously, we talked about the team, how they shot in the playoffs from deep. The Pistons as a team shot 32% from deep, and that was in large part, again, to Malik Beasley. I mean, there's some other players we'll talk about later on in the podcast, THJ included, but Malik contributed to that. And if they would have just got some better three-point shooting, obviously we talked about that with Cade in his playoff preview. He was horrible from beyond the arc, but Malik Beasley contributed to it. So he struggled on offense to really get anything going. And then I think what was an even bigger issue was his defense. The Knicks hunted him out every single time he was on the floor. They attacked him every single time he was on the floor. I thought the lineups, when they would run THJ and Malik together without Asar on the floor, those lineups did absolutely putrid. They got obliterated defensively. They had no one who could guard at the point of attack. A lot of the times it was Malik Beasley who was being asked to guard at the point of attack for the Detroit Pistons. And when Asar was off the floor, it was him and Dennis Schroder. And Malik Beasley was just getting tormented in those lineups. His defense, I think his defense was even more concerning in the playoffs than his offensive game. Just to give some context here, the Malik Beasley THA lineups were a minus 13.3. They had a defensive rating of 124.8. They got obliterated in those minutes. And it was in large part due to him just being not that big, being a little undersized, not being great lateral quickness-wise, just not a very good defender. And the thing with Malik is that you will take that. You will deal with his defensive shortcomings if he's going to be the spark plug that he was offensively all year. The problem was he just was not that. So you were getting bad offense that wasn't really elevating, and then you were also getting defense that was getting picked apart with him on the floor. So they lost his minutes by quite a bit. It wasn't a good playoff series for Malik Beasley at all. One that he definitely would love to have back. I know there were some Pistons fans that were giving him some stuff for being active. I think it was on Snapchat, whatever, and putting up those stories like just funny stories, being weird and stuff, whatever. And he was like, I'm a shooter. I'm going to shoot the ball. Whether it goes in or not, I can't control that. I'm just going to keep shooting and hope it eventually goes in. And I get that. I'm not going to kill him for not, I don't think NBA players, if they're missing, should be off the floor just depressed throughout the rest of their lives because they were missing shots. You just want them to keep shooting, keep playing, and hopefully they turn things around. I don't think it was the fact that he doesn't care. I think he's just a vibrant personality and very loose out there. And for example, or to back up my claim of the minutes with him on the floor, they were outscored by 6.13 points with him on the floor in this series. They had a 113.7 defensive rating. So was not a very good defensive, or not definitely a defensive series, but overall series for Malik Beasley. It was really bad. With that said, I know the question now has become, does how he played in the playoffs impact whether you want to pay him this offseason? And my answer is a resounding no. It doesn't impact whether I want to pay him or not. I'm still re-signing Malik Beasley. He's probably at the top of my to-do list, getting him back on board. I've told you guys this many a times. Keith Smith of Spot Track came on and explained this to everyone. If you weren't tuned in for that episode first, you should go tune in to that episode. Keith will probably have him on at some point in the offseason as well, but he already came on once. The Pistons are going to be operating as an over-the-cap team, which is a good thing in this regard because this will allow them to use the MLE. I believe it's called the non-taxpayer MLE, where they'll be able to offer him $15 million annually on his contract in the first year, which is the most that any other team without cap space can offer him. So they won't be competing with teams that have cap space. It doesn't seem like that anyone really is going to have cap space, and the teams that could have cap space, I don't believe is going to be interested in Malik. The only teams that I believe would be interested in Malik are contenders, which they'll have to offer the same contract the Pistons will. So they're going to operate as the over-the-cap team, and they will extend this MLE contract to him, which will be around $14.5 million, I believe. Somewhere between 14 and 15. And that's something that I think everyone should be happy with paying Malik Beasley. I think that's a really good contract, especially in today's NBA. I'd be completely fine paying him that. I think it's absolutely worth that contract. And while he did struggle in the playoffs, what he did throughout the season is not going to get overshadowed by a 6-game sample size for me. Now, the playoffs do matter more. They do matter more, and you hope that he continue to play well in the playoffs next year rather than fall off in the playoffs. But the Pistons are not in the business of, they're not, what's an example? They're not the Golden State Warriors with Harrison Barnes, where it's like, well, he didn't show up in the finals. We're just going to go ahead and get Kevin Durant to replace him. It's like, no, the Pistons are an up-and-coming team, and if you get rid of Malik Beasley, who was in large part due to played a large part of your success this year, who are you replacing him with? You don't have a replacement. Also, he's been great in the community. He's been great in the locker room. And again, through the season, I thought he was the sixth man of the year. He was incredible throughout the year. 6 games is not going to make me feel differently about that. Now, if he does show up in the next year's playoffs when the Pistons make it and he plays badly again, if that were to happen, then I think you need to have some conversation about trading him. I do, and you definitely will be able to trade him on that contract. But that's when the conversation would start for me. Right now, I don't have any hesitancy about paying Malik Beasley. I think he deserves it. He was a great value contract. He wants to be here. He's great in the locker room. The guys love him. The team loves him. I think you have to bring him back. I'd be shocked if people felt like after these playoffs that this was enough to say, oh, well, actually what he did all season, help him change the culture, how great he played, we don't want him. I'd be pretty shocked if that was the case. But again, that's not to shortchange at all. He was really bad in the playoffs. Like, that's just flatly, I think Malik would tell you that. But that shouldn't change whether you want him on this team. So let me know in the comment section down below. Do you believe that the Pistons should still re-sign Malik Beasley this upcoming offseason despite how badly he played in the playoffs? Let me know. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at @KukaHill. Another veteran that played in these playoffs for the Detroit Pistons that was acquired at the trade deadline that absolutely showed up and balled out, Dennis Schroder, will review his playoffs coming up. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Trust me, I was losing a ton of money on that DoorDash. DoorDash is worth it, though. That Dash Pass is crazy. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDINNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Use code LOCKEDINNBA for half off your first year with Monarch Money. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. There's another great way to support the podcast. You guys already know it. Head to the description down below for the Substack, where I have Kay Cunningham's playoff review. We have Asar Thompson's playoff review up on there. I'm working on Jalen Duren's. Asar's took me like a week. JD's is going to take a little bit of time as well. I'm putting a lot of effort into it. It's a written breakdown with a ton of film involved in it as well. So if you guys want that, make sure you guys head over there, subscribing. It is paid content. You get a free first-time usage if you subscribe as a free subscriber. Then after the first free time, if you enjoy it, you can subscribe for $6 a month and get all the content over there. We have all kinds of film breakdowns, written analysis, all that kind of stuff. Also, subscribe to the Playback if you haven't already. I'll put that description down below as well. All right, so Dennis Schroder. They acquired him at the trade deadline, and I thought he was a little up and down during the regular season after the trade deadline. He started off a little, first few games was like, okay, he's working himself in, not great, but not horrible. Then he started to play really well. Then I thought he was a quality backup point guard during the regular season. I thought he was fine. The guys in the locker room loved him. I can confirm that for you guys. I heard throughout the season at the end that the guys in the locker room absolutely loved him. Excuse me, I'm bringing that up because I know that that's been a story throughout his career at other points of his stoppage across the NBA. That, is he liked in the locker room? Is he a good vet? Is he a good teammate? So that's the stuff that has followed him, whether it's fair or not. That is a narrative that's followed him throughout his career. And I can confirm to you guys that all I heard from multiple people at the end of the year is that the guys absolutely loved him and he was fantastic in the locker room. So that's one thing. Then the playoffs arrived, and the Pistons needed people to step up. If they were going to take down a New York Knicks team that is more talented, that has more experience, that turns out had the better player in the series, and is a team that's now in the Eastern Conference Finals, if they were going to pull that out, they were going to need some other guys to step up and play above what they had performed at during the regular season. Malik Beasley wasn't able to. THJ wasn't able to. Dennis Schroder, he was absolutely able to. He was fantastic in the playoffs for the Detroit Pistons. This is raw numbers in the playoffs. 12.5 points, 3.7 assists, 2.3 rebounds, 1.2 steals. He shot, and this is the big deal. This is the big part. He shot 49% from the field and 48% from deep on 3.5 attempts a game. 48% from deep. And he hit multiple big-time threes, especially at LCA. At the 2 games I went to, now they ended up losing these games. But when he was on the floor at the end of these games, and they had a chance to win, New York was coming back, and the momentum was swinging back to New York, multiple times he hit a 3 that felt like, okay, he calmed everything down. The Pistons are going to pull this out. That was the dagger. He took the momentum back. He was fantastic. He was clutch. He was great. They ended up losing the series. They ended up losing those games, but not because Schroder didn't come out and show out. He played fantastic for the Pistons, and I think what was even better, or what was even more telling about Schroder, about how Schroder played in this series was he was how do I want to say this? He was a viable option in between the first and fourth quarter to guard Jalen Brunson. Now, we've talked about it multiple times in the podcast that in the end of the games, the fourth quarter, when the New York Knicks are going to just spread the floor out, give Jalen Brunson the ball, let him go ISO, it's a lot different because he's a lot stronger than Schroder. He's a lot bigger than Schroder when it comes to strength. He has the ability to just knock him off his balance, get to his spots, get to his shots, and we saw that over and over and over and over again in the fourth. However, from quarters 1 to 3, when you can just full court press, when you don't have to worry about them just running ISOs every single possession, when you can just deny him the ball within the half court, when you can do all that stuff, Schroder was a pest. He was getting under Jalen Brunson's nerves. He was making it incredibly difficult for him to get past half court. He turned him over a few times beyond half court. I thought he was a viable option. Wasn't a great option at the end of games in the fourth quarter. He wasn't the best option on the team, but he was definitely a viable option. He was giving it everything he had, and he was being that pest, constantly just going at Jalen Brunson defensively, constantly just picking at him. And I thought he was really good in that regard. Another area that I thought was really impressive for Schroder was that he came through and it wasn't, the Pistons still need more from this position, right? They still need more from what I'm about to talk about. But he did what he could. Schroder, again, like we talked about with JD in his playoff review, there was a ceiling with JD, and JD hit that ceiling. Whatever ceiling he had in the playoffs of what he could be, he made sure he hit that ceiling. Schroder, I feel like, is the same thing. Schroder had a ceiling for this playoff series of what he could do, and he hit it. He hit the ceiling. He didn't perform below expectations. He hit the ceiling of his expectations. Some may argue that he went above his ceiling of expectations. With that said, the Pistons do probably need more from this, but my point is that the minutes with him and Cade Cunningham were good. They were only outscored by 0.5 points per possession. They had a 111 offensive rating, 112 defensive rating. A lot of that, I think, was probably swayed in the final game because I know throughout the first 4 games, it was a really positive net rating. And the reason why it was so good was because it helped the offense elevate in the half court because it gave someone else in the half court. You had someone else within the half court offense that could run your offense, that could get to the rim and kick out, that could create some advantages somewhat. Now, again, Schroder is not some superstar. The Pistons need to upgrade that part of their offense badly this offseason. They desperately need people who can create advantages offensively without Cade having to create it for them. But Schroder could do it to an extent, and he did it to the best of his abilities, and him and Cade minutes were good because of it. It helped out offensively. Then obviously, like I said, defensively, from quarters 1 to 3, you had Cade still being able to guard OG, and then having Schroder guard Brunson. It was fine. There's one thing I really wish we would have got a lot more of. It's the lineup I would have ran. I would have ran Schroder, Cade, and Asar next to each other. I thought that would have been a lineup I played a lot of. You can swap Schroder and Thompson on Jalen Brunson. You have 2 of your better defenders on the floor while maintaining that secondary playmaking and ball handling with Schroder. You can play Tobias and Duren with that. I felt like that would have been the lineup that I went with closing games. I would have played it a lot more in these playoffs, but we didn't really get it. We only got it for 26 minutes, which is basically nothing. So I would have ran it a little bit more. But Schroder himself, his individual performance, he was fantastic. And before the playoff series, I was unsure of whether he would actually be brought back. I didn't know if he would just be a half the season rental. They didn't give up anything for him. I didn't know if he would be a half the season rental and just like okay, we tried it out. You know, he helped in the short term, but now we want to go get something for a long-term answer. After the playoffs, I do feel like it's pretty likely that he will be resigned, depending on how much he's asking for and what another team wants to give him. I do think it's probably likely the Pistons will bring him back. I also saw a report last week that said that Beasley and Schroder were likely to be high on the Pistons' priority list of guys to bring back. So I do expect Schroder to come back. I think he was a great vet for this team. He played great in the playoffs, was absolutely fantastic in the playoffs, and really, if the Pistons would have won this series, I think Schroder would have gotten a ton of credit, like an absolute ton of credit. He balled out, and he gave it everything he had, and he was great. He was absolutely what you wanted. He was way more than you wanted when you traded for him at the deadline. You gave up basically nothing for him, and he was arguably your third best player, fourth best player in the playoffs. Like, yeah, he was great. So I have no problem with re-signing him. I think he'll be great coming back, and obviously, like I mentioned earlier, in the locker room for this team. So let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at @KukaHill. How did you feel about Dennis Schroder's playoff performance, and do you want to bring him back in the offseason? And if so, for how much on his contract? Let me know. Again, comment section down below or over on Twitter at KukaHill. Coming up, another veteran that didn't have the greatest playoff series, and will this have an impact on his future? We'll talk about THJ coming up. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. Another great way to support the podcast. You guys already know it, the description down below for the SUBSTACK and for the playback room. You guys know all about it. I appreciate all the support. Let's go ahead and get into THJ's playoff performance for the Detroit Pistons. THJ is another veteran that just did not play very well for this team. He had that one game when he went lights out, 6 of 6 from deep in the first half. He cooled off in the second half, but he did have that. That's the game that the Pistons needed to win. They had to win that game. You get that kind of performance out of THJ, you win that game. They weren't able to, and I think that was somewhat, looking back on it, I do feel like that was somewhat of a turning point in the series, is that you got that game from THJ, and you weren't able to win it. You got to pull that one out. But outside of that game, THJ was really rough. 30.8% from deep. 12 points a game, but again, really terrible efficiency. And he's just another guy that if he's not giving you something offensively, he's not spacing the floor and hitting a bunch of threes, he's not a good defender. So it's hard. It's hard to make things happen with THJ, and his flaws are exposed even more with that happening. Now, I know that his net rating on the series was a plus 2.0, but that is largely because the Pistons' starting lineup was great, and he's in the starting lineup, and they played a ton of minutes. So that he was helped a ton, net rating-wise, if you just looked at that, from the fact that the starting lineup was so good, and he simply played with that. So, like, for example, if you take a Sar off those lineups with THJ, they go from being a plus 10.3 with THJ and a Sar off together on the floor. You simply take a Sar off, THJ is a minus 8.53 in his playoff minutes. So I think that had a lot to do with his net rating. It was simply because of the minutes he played with the starters. The minutes he did not play with the starters were not very good at all. And we already talked about the Malik Beasley and THJ minutes, how those ones didn't work out. Look, THJ is a guy, again, who was fantastic in the locker room. Fantastic vet. The players love him. The team loves him. He was great for his role this year, I thought. I thought he did I thought he was mostly what you expected from him throughout the season. And then the playoffs just performed way below expectations. He did hit what I thought was going to be the dagger in Game 6, that step back along the baseline in the fourth quarter. I thought that was the dagger. It didn't turn out to be the dagger. At times he hit some clutch shots. At times he also missed some really bad shots that you really would have liked him to hit that were open. He did get fouled in that corner three that I believe he would have hit at least 2 of those, and maybe the Pistons win the series, but nonetheless. This was not a great series for THJ for the same reasons of Malik. Didn't have a great three-point shooting series, and he's not very good defensively, and they were targeted each possession. Jalen Brunson attacks him. OG Anunoby attacked him. Mikal Bridges, I thought, was really attacking him, especially when Mikal started playing well. That's when the Pistons were really screwed. And I think, if you want to be honest, I think that's playing a large part in the Knicks' success now after the Pistons series, because you're starting to see Mikal wake up and do a little bit more in the half court. You're starting to see OG do a little bit more within the half court, and it's making the Knicks a lot harder to guard. And it's because I felt like Mikal and OG were starting to attack Tim Hardaway Jr., and especially Mikal started to wake up a little bit as the season went on, started to play really well because THA just doesn't have anything for Mikal. So I think that's the area where the Pistons have to improve on this offseason. They need two-way guys. They need guys that can shoot threes and also play defense, not guys who play defense and can't shoot threes and guys that can shoot threes and can't play defense. I think that's where they're going to upgrade at. So that takes us to, are they going to re-sign THJ? Now, I've said this a few times on the podcast, and I've confirmed that this is true, but I don't know the exact rules of it. Again, we will have Keith Smith on the podcast, and he will completely explain it for us soon. But basically, there is a rule where, because THA is an expiring contract this offseason, but they have a cap hold on him. There is a way in which the Pistons can sign THA to a contract that has the last 2 years of his contract non-guaranteed. So they can re-sign him. Only the first year is guaranteed, and that will allow them to then flip him immediately after signing him and use his salary as a matching contract. I believe, and I've heard from some people, that is something the Pistons will look into doing this offseason, trying to utilize THA's contract to flip and be a salary matcher. Now, it's not as easy as that, because then you obviously need THJ to agree to it. Like, he has to agree to this contract and then agree with wanting to, do this whole thing. Like, he would have to be on board with it. So it's not like it's an automatic thing to happen. However, I do think it is one of the options, a pretty nice option for the Pistons. I think it makes sense for them to use THA's contract, use him as the salary filler, maybe throw him tech and a pick, and try to go upgrade at the 4 position, get a two-way guy. I think that would be really good for the Detroit Pistons. Don't know if they're able to do it, because THA would have to agree to it again. But that's certainly an option for them and would make a lot of sense. And we've talked about it a few times last offseason. Michael Blackstone, the Pistons salary cap leader. I forget what his exact position's called within the front office, but he is like the second-hand man and like the salary guy. He is the cap space guru, the leader of the cap team, whatever. He's very savvy. He is very, very savvy and very smart with the cap. So I definitely think this is something that's going to be put on the table and something they're going to investigate. But I do not think, even if they don't get that done, I don't think they're going to bring THA back. And that's not because I think THA was just flat out horrible. It's just they need, and I guess this is kind of spoiling some of my thoughts on the offseason that we're going to talk about throughout this offseason, but they cannot just completely run it back. If they want to run it back with the young guys, sure, okay, yeah. You cannot completely just run back the exact same rotation this year. You still need to improve along the margins. You cannot just completely just run back this team. Just because the Pistons were good this year does not mean that they're going to be automatically slated for a top 6 team or a top 6 seed if they just completely run this roster back. The Magic are going to try to get better. The Pacers will be better. The Knicks will be even better. Maybe the Celtics fall a little bit. Cavs will be better. And who knows? One of these other teams below are going to try to get better. I don't think the Hawks are going to just sit around and not try to get better. Like, point is, the Pistons don't need to make a trade for a star, but they do need to improve along the margins. They like improve along the ends of the rotation. And again, they need guys that can play defense and shoot threes, or guys that have size at least that can shoot. So I would thank THA for his services. I think he was good in his role. I thought he did exactly what you needed from him this offseason. I would upgrade from THA this offseason. That would be the position I would upgrade from. If they bring him back, is it the end of the world? No, he's a good veteran. He's good in the locker room, and he does provide some value as a shooter. Like his quick trigger and his ability to get hot won the Pistons multiple games this year. I would be trying to upgrade from his position. I think it's not even so much just because of the playoff performance, even though that doesn't help his case. So obviously, if he went scorched earth in the playoffs, I think obviously we'd be sitting here saying, yeah, probably want to bring him back. But he wasn't like fantastic during the regular season. I thought he was what you expected. Then he fell off in the playoffs. And he's a position where you'd like to upgrade from. He's not as valuable as Malik. I don't think he's as valuable as Schroder, and he's a replaceable guy. So thank him for his services. I thought he was great for the team in the locker room, but you need to upgrade somewhere. And I think THA's position where you'd probably upgrade from. But let me know in the comment section down below. Does THA's playoff performance impact whether you guys want to bring him back or not? Let me know, comment section down below, or over on Twitter at @KukaHill. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Stay safe out there. And until next time, peace out, everybody.